Hi there and welcome to The History Teacher. This revision video covers early Elizabethan England 1558 to 1588 from the GCSE Edexcel 9-1 course. Hopefully you'll also find it useful if you are studying any of the other exam boards or if, just like me, you love history. Hi there guys, today we're going to be looking at the 16-mark question and the techniques you need to use to get the top marks that you can. I always recommend that my students do this question first. When they open their papers, it's the longest question and it carries half the marks for the paper, so it's really important to get this right. We're going to be looking at a question from topic 2 about Mary Queen of Scots. And this question brings in everything we've learned about the threats at home and abroad. So the question we're going to be looking at is, the main reason Mary Queen of Scots was executed was because she was involved in the Babington plot. How far do you agree? Explain your answer. And it carries 16 marks. It then goes on to say, you may use the following in your answer. Walsingham, Parliament. You must also use information of your own. So, before we start, we need to note a few things in the question, which are there to help us make sure that we get the best marks we can. You have the statement, then it asks you, how far do you agree? This is the crux of this question. You need to say how much you agree with this statement. So your conclusion is always going to be something along the lines of, overall, I mostly agree, disagree, however, because these questions always have multiple sides to the statement. The other thing I want to mention is the bullet points. I always think these are a good reminder when I'm a bit stuck, but they can get in the way a bit. There's no need to write a whole paragraph about Walsingham or Parliament. In fact, I think you would struggle to. As you will see in my essay, I refer to these, but I'm not going to go into huge detail about them. If you find yourself sitting in the exam room and looking at the bullet points without the slightest clue about what to write about them, just ignore them. You won't lose any marks for not mentioning them. So let's begin by thinking about how we structure the answer. Ultimately, you're working towards a conclusion, and it's a good idea to jot down what your conclusion is going to be before you begin writing. I've taken a moment to think about what I know about the reasons Mary Queen of Scots was executed, and I think that the Babington plot provided Elizabeth and Parliament with the excuse they needed, but it wasn't really the main reason. So I'm going to jot that down on my question paper. I'm going to put a line through it at the end so it doesn't matter, and it's really important that my conclusion runs all the way through my essay. So I'm going to have that at the top of my paper to keep referring back to this all the time. Other thing I'm going to jot down quickly are the reasons she was executed so that they act as a guide for me when I'm writing it. So the main issues for me are Mary's claim to the English throne, foreign and home support for Mary, and her involvement in the plots. Now I've got these ideas down. This is going to form the 3 paragraphs and 1 conclusion that I need to write. So then I'm going to open my essay with a mini conclusion, which is going to act as my introduction. I'm going to refer back to that initial idea that I jotted down. So I'm going to say, I somewhat agree with the statement, main reason Mary Queen of Scots was executed was because she was involved in the Babington plot, because the Babington plot provided Parliament with the excuse they needed to push Elizabeth for her execution. However, the underlying reasons were that Mary posed a real threat to Elizabeth and Parliament wanted to remove the threat. So that's it. That's my introduction. I've started out laying out what I'm going to talk about for the rest of my essay. I'm going to be using PEEA to structure my paragraphs. If you're not familiar with this structure or you need a reminder, pop back to my video on the 12-mark question now. Link is up in your top right-hand corner. So let's get started. My opening paragraph needs to deal with the statement itself. I've written, the Babington plot was evidence that Mary and others were plotting to remove Elizabeth and replace her on the throne. There's my point. Now my evidence for that? The plan was for the Duke of Guise to invade England, murder Elizabeth and replace her with Mary. The plot also had the support of Philip II and the Pope. Unlike previous plots, there was clear evidence of Mary's involvement in the plot. Walsingham's spy network had uncovered letters to and from Mary discussing the plot and hidden in beer barrels. There we are. I've just given a really short description of what happened in the Babington plot and Mary's involvement. This was crucial evidence for Parliament, who had been looking to remove Mary since she arrived in England in 1568. It proved that Mary was committing treason against Elizabeth and gave Parliament the opportunity to push Elizabeth to sign her death warrant and remove the threat of Mary for good. Okay, so that's my explanation. That's the PEE part of my paragraph. You'll notice it's very similar to what I would have written in the 12-mark question, but the analysis part of my essay is going to focus on the question and ultimately my conclusion. Remember, my conclusion was that this is the excuse they needed, but it wasn't the main reason. My analysis part of the paragraph is going to reflect that. My analysis for this paragraph is, in the end, the evidence of Mary's involvement in the Babington plot was the chance Parliament was looking for. Mary's continued presence in England meant that Elizabeth faced plots at home and abroad, all of which endangered her life. The Babington plot provided the chance to remove the threat. So, again, you can see I've kept on topic. I'm still discussing the Babington plot in my analysis, but I'm making a judgment about how much of a reason it was. It also provides a useful segue into my next paragraph, which will be on why Mary was such a threat. So I've done my PEE part of that paragraph, and now I need to think about the analysis again. The analysis for this paragraph links back to that mini conclusion from the beginning. This is really important. I've said Mary posed a real and present threat to the security of Elizabeth's throne. Her claim to the throne was supported by English and foreign Catholics who were willing to go to any lengths to see Mary on the throne of England. However, just the fact of Mary's existence was not enough to remove her. Elizabeth was unwilling to kill another anointed monarch without just cause. So you can see at the end of every paragraph, I'm linking back to that conclusion that I've already planned. I've already written this conclusion. And this is vital because the exam board is looking for a line of reasoning that is coherent, sustained, and logically structured. In other words, your argument is the same throughout your essay. Once we've written our 3 PEEA paragraphs, we're going to write our conclusion. Don't worry if you're repeating yourself. This is to be expected. You should not add any new information in your conclusion. It's a wrap-up of everything you've said in your analysis. My conclusion looks like this. In conclusion, the Babington plot provided Parliament with the opportunity to show Elizabeth that Mary was a clear threat to her life and throne. Up to this point, Elizabeth had been reluctant to kill another anointed monarch due to the message it might send. She was also concerned about the threat it would create from foreign Catholic kings. However, with the evidence proving Mary's role in the Babington plot, along with the evidence of other rebellions and plots, funded and supported by the Pope and Philip II, Elizabeth had little choice but to sign the death warrant and order the execution of Mary, Queen of Scots. So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm pulling all the threads of my paragraphs together into a couple of sentences. I'm not adding anything new, I am literally just summing up. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of what you should be including in your 16-mark answers. Remember, I'm always happy to answer your questions in the comments. If you would like an annotated copy of this answer, the link is in the description as well. Okay, that's everything for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment. I always reply as quickly as I can. Don't forget, if you like my content, I'd really appreciate it if you buy me a coffee to keep me going. The link is in the description. And that is everything for today, and I will see you next time.